Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at the big ideas for section 6.4. So we've just had a lesson on binomial probability, and now I want to point out some of the big ideas. So let's first of all start off with how to recognize if something is a binomial event. How do we know if we're working with something that is binomial? Well, we're going to use an acronym, and that acronym is BINS, B-I-N-S. And I'm going to tell you what BINS stands for. Let's start with the B. The B starts with, or I should say, stands for binary outcomes. Binary outcomes. In other words, there are exactly two outcomes. Now, we call those two outcomes a success and a failure. I don't have them listed on here, but you guys can write them into your notes. The two outcomes are called a success and a failure. So we have to know if you're reading a question and it's obvious that there are only two outcomes, the success and a failure, then there's a pretty good chance you're going to be working with binomials. So B stands for binomial outcomes, two outcomes, a success and a failure. All right, what about the I? Well, the I stands for independent trials. So whatever the trials are, okay, in our lesson for 6.4, we were talking about shooting a basketball. So every shot is a trial. Well, the trials need to be independent of each other, okay? The trials need to be independent of each other. And we should remember that independence means that the probability does not change when we go from trial to trial to trial, okay? So whatever the probability of a success is, that probability stays the same from trial to trial to trial. That means the trials are independent. All right, let's go to N. What does the N stand for? Well, the letter N in probability, or I should say in the world of statistics, stands for like your sample size. But for binomial probability, it stands for the number of trials. And for us, in order for something to be a binomial event, there is a set number of trials or a fixed number of trials. It doesn't go on forever. There's not an unknown number of trials. Like you read the question and you know the person is going to take 3 foul shots. Or if we're talking about a different situation, there are 10 multiple choice questions on a quiz, okay? So there's a set or a fixed number of trials. That has to be true in order for this to be a binomial event. And then finally, we get to the S. And the S stands for successes having the same probability for each trial. And really, this could say trial or, whoops, this could say trial or it could say success. Okay? So the S stands for the same probability. I and S go together. If they are independent trials, then we know that the probability is going to stay the same. So the probability of a success does not change. It stays the same from trial to trial. So how do you identify if something is binomial? Well, check bins. Are there exactly two outcomes? Are the trials independent of each other? Is there a set or a fixed number of trials? And does the probability stay the same from trial to trial? This will help you determine if something is binomial. If you say no to any of these, then it's not a binomial situation. All right, the rest of this video is going to go a little bit faster. So notation, we talked about this in the lesson. But this is the notation for telling us, hey, I'm working with a binomial distribution. And the binomial distribution that I'm working with, I know that the shape of it is binomial. I know, well, I should say I know that this is binomial, the B. The number of trials is N, and P is the probability of a success. And then finally, we look at our formula. Now, my expectation is that you've watched the lesson video or you've gone through the lesson in class, and I don't have to identify every single part of this formula. But basically, it's this. This first part here, in choose X, this helps us to identify the number of combinations for a situation. P is the probability of a success. 1 minus P is the probability of a failure. X is the number of successes. And then N minus X would be the number of failures. So with that said, those are the big ideas for section 6.4. Practice, practice, practice these types of questions in order to prepare yourself for the test and for the AP test. Have a great day.